Hi, my name is Leshem. I am the CEO and co-founder of Plantt, and I'm happy to be here, virtually surrounded by fellows in this growing CS ecosystem. This conference and its variety of topics and events is a testament to the significant growth and scale of what it means to be a CSM. CS teams grew in their responsibility from being a SaaS business functionality responsible for retention and loss prevention to being CS 2.0, an engine of growth across a range of B2B sectors. CS teams now also drive upsell and cross-sell, onboarding efficiency, NPS scores, create expert advocates, and more. One CSM told us she feels like she is small-scale CEO over her accounts. Any issues that is on their mind is on her mind. It is valuable to raise the question, why? What are the reasons behind this rapid expansion? An answer can be found in the asset that CS teams had and maintained, a close, ongoing, long-lasting relationship with the accounts. The customers were happy to have a CS as a single point of contact they can trust. Someone with both technical know-how and good soft skills to communicate their issues to. How to best use the product, what are their future business goals, what are the pain points. This made CS teams very well positioned to deliver value to customers and become revenue generators. The organizational functionality simply flowed where the best relationship is. Developing relationships and trust is at the core of CS teams' activities. A stable relationship with the customer enables both early detection of issues and improve CS ability to handle them. Yet, as the scope of CS expanded, the metrics that accompany CS have stagnated. CS units don't have a metric that evaluates relationship quality. The legacy metric we rely on to judge where we stand with the customer is the health score, a mainly usage data-based metrics, clicks, logins, activity logs, designed to give a probability of an account either to churn or to renew their subscription. Even assuming health score gives a perfectly accurate prediction, it is misused as a relationship measure. Having a certain health score doesn't necessarily suggest something about the quality of the customer's interactions. You can have a customer with a high health score, but still be unable to capitalize on an expansion opportunity. Health score was never meant to indicate what we now expect it to indicate. As a side note, usage-based health score is underperforming even on its target objective, predicting churn. Its accuracy is low, or too often rates inconclusively, not really invoking action, and relies on a lacking set of data. We'll come back to that point later. So, a conceptual change is necessary. We need a new metric, one that measures relationship quality. What should this metric actually indicate? It should give us a measure of how deeply we are rooted within their customer organization, to what extent they view us as trusted advisors, how eager they are to interact with us, the level to which we achieve stability with the customer. All this to give us accurate sense of the ability to mitigate threats like dissatisfaction with a feature and capitalize opportunities like additional service inquiry, and the ability to act towards a desired outcome. So let's welcome in the not so creatively named relationship score. How can such metric be achieved? Or in other words, what makes a good relationship? Well, if you ask CSMs, how do they know how is their relationship with customer X, they will give you a straightforward answer. They talk to them through email exchange, calls, Zoom conversation, QBRs, and more. They independently analyze this qualitative information, the communication sentiment, the depth of product knowledge, availability, engagement level, motivation to expand. The sum of this conversation paints a picture of where they stand with the customer. This process highlights the gap between what CS knows makes a healthy relationship and what their existing tools look at to evaluate the same thing. The trouble is, this process doesn't scale very well. Conversational data is often very scattered, messy, and hard to quantify. The evaluation process, as a result, requires manual input, is time-consuming, and entails a frequent context switches between the multiple sources of data. But this communicational data can be quantified. First, the metadata of the engagement carries valuable insights. Data like the email response rates now shows to a meeting a sudden increase in the volume of inbound communication or number of contacts. This is the easier part. This data is already ripe for analysis and probably already is by some of you. Luckily, when it comes to the content of the conversation, NLU, natural language understanding models, can come to the rescue and mine it for meaningful signals. Signals can be a negative sentiment expressed in an interaction, a reference or a lead given, or a friendly casual conversation, a downgrade request, a billing issue, dissatisfaction with a feature, you name it. A question raised by the customer can be flagged as a how-to type query. If it is answered by the CS team with a not supported type answer, then the interaction is flagged with a feature request or missing functionality. This collected data can be intelligently aggregated to reflect the painted picture by the CSM, only more detailed, in higher resolution, and from a single source of truth. Such a metric can have significant benefit to the customer success team. It will allow tracking the trend line of the relationship quality over time with a specific customer or across the account portfolio. It will tell which activities actually move the needle, which CS efforts has impact on the relationship, and attach a dollar sign to it. If an invite to a webinar was pinpointed well and was well received, or was marketed too aggressively and had a counterproductive effect. That way, it can also be used as a measurement of individual CS team members' performance. Track a member's effect on the relationship score of his accounts, his common actions that ignite negative signals, or areas in which the product's expertise is lacking. The relationship score can even be broken down into a score given to each point of contact within the account, resulting in a relationship mapping of the organization. Through the mapping, multiple champions of the product can be found on all levels, both technicals and executives, acting as advocates of the service. As teams know, it's too risky to put all their eggs in one basket, so it's crucial not to be dependent on too few champions. The relationship score will finally delegate the health score back to its original role, giving an actionable prediction indicating a specific business outcome, in this case, retention. But as the functions of CS grow, so did their KPIs. There are now more desired business outcomes. Each should have its own predictive measurement, not just retention, like a feature upsell indicator that highlights the probability of a need for additional services and the level of the customer intent and the openness to them. The communicational signals gathered will give insight and should be relied on in all these indicators. Not surprisingly, even in case of churn risk. Some churn flags can be exclusively found in the textual data. For example, here is a possible and frequent crisis scenario. A heavy user is indicating they are about to change position, or they are even planning to leave the company. Set off all the alarms, right? This kind of information can only be reflected in the communications with the CS team. The end result is a proactive call to action board that spans the whole scope of the CS work. This board can quickly bubble up recurring issues across customers, common requests to go on the product board, or obstacles in the way of a smooth onboarding process. An important advantage of this new consolidated dataset is that it can reveal meaningful patterns that might have previously gone unnoticed. A real-life example is a case of a company that lost accounts which they felt were in great condition for no apparent reason. After having done a hard run through the data, they found the commonality. All the accounts were under a dominant parent company. The parent company's plan and sentiment towards the service were transparent to them. And when the parent company dropped the decision to cancel the service, it was truly unexpected. If they could find this pattern and learn to find the indicating signals of such a parent company, they might have played it differently. I believe that relationship score based on communicational data is the gateway to a focused, data-driven future for customer success, where the voice of the customer is echoing loud and clear throughout the organization. An amazing advocate of the relationship-centered approach is Ziv Peled, Chief Customer Officer at AppsFlyer. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Ziv, where he articulated his worldview. Here is a glimpse of that conversation. I'm super excited to have the opportunity today to talk with Ziv Peled, Chief Customer Officer at AppsFlyer and one of the leading figures in the customer success global community. Hello, Ziv. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, and thank you for having me.
Ziv has been a mentor and an inspiring figure for me, and I'm so glad you are sharing your insights with us today. So, Ziv, I'm interested to know, what is your take on the current role of customer success teams?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think that there's an evolution since I've been in customer success 8 years ago. There's an evolution from customer success to just be there for the team, and maybe some are support engineers, some are looking at how they can help the customer achieve the onboarding. And then I think that in 2015, 2016, there's a big shift of getting really to the desired outcomes, to really understand what the customer wants to achieve. And I think now we're definitely still there. I think value is one of the most important foundations for customer success. But we see in the last 2 or 3 years also the addition of how to build those significant relationships with the customers. And I think that it differs between different companies, but I think in B2B SaaS and in focusing enterprise, you need to develop these 4 or 5 significant relationships. And as time goes and you achieve the milestones that the customer wanted to achieve, then you go and deepen those relationships.
I see. So you say that relationship is at the core of sales departments, right? So how do you build long-lasting relationships with your customers that have true impact on the business? It's not just being friend of your customers, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it. I have in my latest presentation, I have a very simple triangle that shows that the beginning of everything, when you sell to a customer in B2B SaaS, it's mostly trust. Later on, when you start to work with that customer in some companies with POC, with some not without the POC, but when you get to the onboarding, then there's a lot of trust and the beginning of value. And then again, if the product is good and if the onboarding is good, then you get to the main value very fast. I always look at the first 3 months. And then you go and you invest in the relationship, because it will enable you in the future to then understand, I just signed the customer and they just onboarded, but 6 months in, 9 months in, 12 months in, maybe they have a new challenge, maybe they have a new goal. And I think that the best and important thing for startups, for software as a service, is that what's the next thing for your customers? What's the next? And if you build the right trust and relationship there with the value that you already push, I think that the next thing is for them to open with you and to show you more opportunities of where you can develop.
So would you say that building and nurturing sustainable relationships with our customers would give us the opportunity, the ability to act on opportunities, on potential opportunities and risk with our customers?
Absolutely. I think that when you have a good relationship with the customer, they are more open to you in all of the dimensions you mentioned and more. So when there's risk in the account, they will pull you in faster. Sometimes when you think about in B2B SaaS, the risk is not always with the people that you are interacting with. Sometimes it's a developer that works for the one of the engineering teams that works for the marketeer, and you don't even know them. So if the marketeer has a great relationship with you, then you will know. So I think that's a good example for what we call red flag. I think that when there's an opportunity for upsell or expansion, then we have the opportunity. And then when we have a good relationship, we understand if we should work with them on the budget before the end of Q4, or if Q1 is actually a better option. I think in the end, relationship is an opportunity for anything. I'll give you another example that I speak a lot about, is that if you have a good relationship with one of your significant relationships in one of the customers, they will open to you and they will tell you when they leave, 2 months, 3 months before they leave, and they maybe even orchestrate the new significant relationship. And I think that's super important. And another opportunity here is also to understand where they go.
Right.
And I have one of my customers now just went from one company to another company, and it didn't help us a lot to grow. We were 20% in of the second company. Now he's going to the third company. We're 0% in that company, and in the end, that journey enables us a lot of potential business potential.
Now we understand the importance of building meaningful relationships with our customers. Can you share a little bit more about how you measure it, or what kind of metrics and tools would help you build relationships at scale?
Sure. So the first thing I think that the first thing we did was to make sure it's there, that it's configured, that we know that I think maybe the best word is map it. Now we know how many relationships we have in the account, where we don't have enough or not at all. And then now what we try to measure is what is the strength of the relationship, what is the type of the relationship. So on the other side, we have valuable users, we have champions, we have the decision makers, and we have the executives. We also want to look at another dimension is if there are supporters or advocates of AppsFlyer. And then we want to really understand what is the level of engagement we have with them. So we try to measure in 2 dimensions. We do it manually today, which is it's good, but it's not great. And I think that what the outcome of that is that when we try to measure it by a good criteria, because in the end we have now 174 customer success managers. I want all regions, all CSMs to pretty much have the same criteria. So when I say that I have a 5 out of 5 strength relationship with someone, it means that they will answer an email or a message I'm sending them today within the current day. If it's 4 out of 5, it will be by tomorrow. Another dimension that I cannot say that it's super successful for now, but I'm sure that we want to double down on is the personal dimension. I want to understand how, at least to begin with, how well do I know that person on the other side? Are they married? Where do they live? Where are they originally from? How many kids they have?
What's their birthday?
Yeah. And in the end, to summarize both of those dimensions, in the end, I want to understand the motivational aspect of that person. On one side, professionally, on the other side, personally, because in the end, if you think about the work of the customer success manager, and if I want to be a better relationship manager, then I need to look at the other side, look at the person on the other side, and to understand what can I do for them. So there's definitely things that I can do for them professionally, but there's maybe also things that I can do for them personally. Feel good, help them reflect on their career, help them in thinking about what's the next step in their career. I'm now working with 20 companies, probably with 80 significant relationships, all marketeers. So I see many marketeers in their careers. probably I have some experience of what I can then suggest and recommend to that person.
Let's change the subject a little bit. So we talk about the importance of relationship and how do we measure it. Where do we stand with health scoring? What's the role of health scoring in a world where you expect your customer success managers to build relationships with the customers?
Yeah, so I'm not a big believer in health scoring. I think that again, if your product is not very simple, then it will be hard to find the equation for health scoring, and then you need to really understand if you build something that is built on the manual things or something that can be subject to lots of changes. I think that everyone working on health scoring at the very difficult month in March 2020, where their entire user base
went model collapsed.
Yeah, and this is also why I don't like these models, because even before COVID-19, red accounts that doesn't churn ever, and green accounts that churn, and you couldn't expect that. So I think that what I'm going to build probably this year, on top of all the things that we already have, is that kind of a score or a measure for the CSM themselves, for the CSMs themselves, to understand from all the things that are in their control, how much they already done. So if you look at, I have 20 accounts and I'm now focusing on one account, and I want to know if I did 80% of what is in my control or 40%. And then if I did 40%, what is the 60% that I can still do? Maybe I didn't do a QBR this quarter. So that's in the 40%. This is absolutely in the 60% that I can do.
Yeah.
Then I should do it. Because in the QBR, I learn more about the customer, and I get to deepen the relationship and maybe build new relationships. So it's all in my control. And usually in health scoring, people are looking at trends of traffic, trends of behavior, and it's not in your control.
Ziv Peled, thank you very much for joining us today, Chief Customer Officer at AppsFlyer. I'm really glad that you made us and shared your insights, precious insights with us. I really want I really appreciate that you joined us for today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Many thanks to Ziv for that insightful conversation. I would be happy to take any question if there are any. And if not, hope to see you in the next conference, where we might be able to enjoy the Tel Aviv sun. Feel free to contact me on any topic. I'm excited for what comes next to this community. Thanks for listening.